Hey, good morning, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about what does my current pain have to do with my old injury? So this is a question that we've been getting a lot around the clinic, so decided that it was time to get on here and talk to you all about it. What has happened to our bodies in the past may be affecting what's happening to your body right now. So I'm Dr. Amy with Physical Therapy for Everybody, located here in Maple Valley, Washington. And we are doing Facebook Lives every Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. to give you guys some information and to help you understand a little bit more about what's going on with your body and what you're going through. So if you have any questions that you would like to see a Facebook Live done about, please feel free to drop a comment here or send me a personal message on the Facebook page for Physical Therapy for Everybody, because we're happy to hop on here on Friday mornings and answer your questions. That's what we're here to do. So the question that's been coming up a lot in the clinic in the past couple weeks is, what does my past pain or injury have to do with my current pain? And so this question has come out because when we're doing our evaluation and when we're getting to know our patients and our clients, we are asking them about any previous injuries. And it may be in the area that you are currently seeking treatment for, or it may be in another area. And so people are not sure how those things are related and kind of wonder why we ask those questions. And so it's been a really informative process for them as we go through and explain that to them. So I wanted to explain to you guys today what that is. So how does your old injury or pain potentially lead to problems that are causing your current injury or pain? So I was trying to think of a good analogy because I feel like those are always a little bit more helpful to understand when we're talking about the body. And the only thing I could come up with is something that's super going to date me. I think it's something that's going to be really dating, but I hope you guys will grant me some grace on that. So when I was little, I was extremely active, always, running around, playing in the neighborhood, all that good kind of stuff. And I would fall down a lot. And so my knees were scraped probably completely until I was at least like 15 years old. And I still have scars from those scrapes on my knees because I was just running around and I'd, trip on a root and I'd fall down. So you can imagine that my jeans had a lot of holes in the knees. And, this is back in the day when holes were not cool. And now I probably just would have been the coolest kid on the block. But anyway, at the time, it was not cool to have holes in your jeans. And so, my mom would get those iron-on patches. Do you guys remember those? So you would turn the jeans inside out and you would put the patch over the area that had the hole, right? And so it covered up the whole entire hole. And then you would iron it on, right? Which works really well for jeans, whereas maybe a knit pant or something like that, you might be able to sew up. But those iron-ons worked really good for jeans. And so I had them on my jeans all the time, obviously, because, I'd break in a new pair of jeans pretty darn quick. So if you ever had those, you remember that the patch was kind of a stiffer area. And I really noticed it because it was on my knees, right? So where my knee is bending. So I'd get a lot of extra tension right around there. And it wasn't a big deal initially because I would kind of be able to deal with it. But as I grew and the jeans got tighter because I got longer, it would become more of a problem. And so when I would try to bend my knee, that patch would kind of be painful because it was really limiting the motion. So the patch doesn't have the same motion as the rest of the jeans material because the jeans were kind of a little bit stretchy, but the patch was pretty solid. So it would put more force through that area and it would make it harder for me to bend my knee until I got a new pair of jeans, and then the whole process would start again. But this is much like what happens in your body. So you get an area of injury and your body is going to send blood flow to heal it. And what it's going to do initially is lay down scar tissue. Now, when it lays down scar tissue, it kind of piles it all up into a pile. And it's all facing in different directions and all that stuff because your body's trying to heal that area. Over time, hopefully, you put normal motion through that area and the scar tissue is able to realign in a pattern that's more normal for your regular activity. That would be a normal healing process. So the scar tissue is laid down by the body. That's totally normal. You move the area, the scar tissue aligns the way it's supposed to with the movement, and then it turns into like regular tissue. So then you don't have any long-term issues with that, which is great. And our bodies can do that a lot of the time as long as we get the normal movement back. That's the key part of it. So if we have scar tissue that's laid down in a random pattern, that's just how the body does it, and we don't have normal movement to the area, then it stays in that random pattern. And that doesn't seem like too big of a deal when it's one small area, but then we injure another area that's related, and we have that same thing go on. The scar tissue lays down, and if there's not normal movement, it's not able to align the way it's supposed to. These things can add up over time, and it starts to put abnormal forces through your body. So let's talk about a low back problem. So I have a lot of patients who come in and they have low back problems, pain, difficulty walking, can't get up and down stairs, can't do their gardening, the things that they want to be able to do in life or exercise. And I talk to them a lot about their feet, their knees, and their hips, and previous low back injuries. The reason why is if you have an injury in those areas and it doesn't heal properly, that means you have an area that's not moving normally. So let's say you have a hip injury that you had years and years ago. Let's say you fell off a horse. You fell off a horse years and years ago. You landed on that hip. The pain eventually went away and you didn't think anything more about it. And now it's 10, 20 years later and you're having so low back pain. So why do we want to talk about that initial hip injury? Well, our question is, when that hip injury healed or it stopped being painful, did you actually get your full motion back in that hip? Because if you didn't get that full motion back in the hip, then it's going to be pulling on the low back. And if we have abnormal stress in the low back over time, that can cause an injury in the low back. So we need to go back and deal with the hip injury and get the hip moving properly so that we decrease the stress to the low back, so that now, in this time, the low back can heal properly. So that's why we spend so much time talking about what you've been through and previous injuries and previous issues you've had, because all of them can contribute to what's going on today. So I've had several patients lately who have come in with really, really bad low back pain. Like they can't walk, low back pain. Like it's a struggle for them to get down the hall, low back pain. And when I talk to them about what's happened in the past, usually they have a history, right, of low back pain. They've had this happen before. They've had difficulty walking, but it always got better after a couple of days or potentially a couple of weeks. And so they thought that the problem was gone. But what was actually happening is that the area was healing enough. It was putting scar tissue around there to protect that area, but the scar tissue was not aligned normally. So that area was not moving properly. So they have basically a patch in their low back here and a patch in their low back here and a patch in their low back here. And then over time, this area down here is like, I'm taking too much stress because of all these patches that are going on in the area. So to heal this area down here, we have to deal with these other patches. We have to get these areas moving normally so that we can allow this area to move normally, which is our current place that we're having pain and difficulty. So that is our goal here at Physical Therapy for Everybody, is to understand your whole story, to understand your whole body, to understand your history and what you've been through so that we can deal with what's going on now. Because it doesn't lead to the long-term transformation and results that we know you're looking for if we only deal with this one problem that you're having now. If we don't deal with those patches that your body has created, we won't be able to fully heal this area because it still continues to have increased pressure on it. And if it has increased pressure on it, well, it might heal for a short period of time, but it's not going to heal long term. We have to release those areas of pressure, the other areas of pressure, to be able to heal the area that's bothering you right now. So with the low back, a lot of times that is looking at the feet, the knees, the hips. We have the same thing, in the upper body. When we're dealing with the neck, we have to look at the shoulders, the elbows, and the hand and the wrist. It tends to be in the upper body that things tend to move down. So people tend to start with neck pain, and then it moves into shoulder, elbow, and hand and wrist. They'll start to have numbness and tingling in their hands potentially. So it usually starts up here with the neck. But with the low back, it could be starting in your feet. So when you come in and we do the evaluation, we're talking about your feet and your knees and your hips, and you're like, hey, I have low back pain. Now you know why. And we talked to you about this during the time of why we want to understand the full story, because we don't want to get partway in and hear about something that we didn't know about before, and that changes our understanding of what's going on with you, which I have had happen a couple times where I've asked patients, their full story, and, we forget, right? People forget. And so, I'll ask them, well, how about this or that? I'll see something. And I'll be like, when there's this thing or that thing, it seems like there's an old injury. And they're like, no, I've never heard that area before at all. And so when we're talking to them, we're like, okay, well, let me know if you think of anything. And sometimes it takes a couple weeks for that to come up. And a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, you know what? 10 years ago, actually, I did this. I fell off the horse. I sprained my ankle while I was running, and it was, really, really bad. So that's always fine to bring up later on in treatment. It will help complete the picture a little bit, maybe change the treatment plan a little bit. But we like to have people think about it beforehand. So that's why we do a phone consultation first, right? So we talk to you on the phone and hear your story. Then usually we'll have you come in and review that, and then get into a little bit more detail, get into the weeds a little bit to understand that situation a little bit better, to make sure that we have that complete picture before we start. Make sure we know about you, and we can come up with the best treatment plan for you and your body based on your history or your story and what's going on right now. So, a little review. When your body has an injury, it heals by laying down scar tissue, and that's completely normal. The important thing is to make sure that that scar tissue aligns normally so it allows for normal motion in the joint or muscle or ligament or tendon. If it does, then that area can move normally. If not, it creates like a patch on that particular area, which doesn't move normally and ends up putting bad stress on other areas of the body. So that's why it's important at this point, when you're dealing with this pain that you're dealing with, to make sure that we understand the other areas that have problems and pain so that we can help fix it and we can make you hopefully feel better. So if you have any questions about that, or you want to know more about us, or if we can help you, feel free to give us a call. You can drop a note here. We'll get in touch with you. You can send us a private message. We're always here to hear your story and to give you some guidance into what the next best steps would be for you. And of course, if you have any questions, please send them to me because I would love to be able to answer your questions and help you guys make the best decision about your healthcare. All right, have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you later. Bye.